Well, there has been an ongoing debate on whether the nature of the executive, the structure of the executive should be reviewed, and what a better person to talk to than the former chairperson of the Constitution of Kenya Review Commission, Professor Yashpal Gai, who worked at the institution between the years 2000 and 2005 when the first draft was taken to a vote. And first of all, your thoughts on the possibilities of having a referendum or having the change of the executive structure as it is now?
Well, it's going to be difficult because the process of constitution amendment is a bit more complex than we have had in the previous years. And there has to be a very wide support through the country before that change will go through. The Commission, in accordance with the law.
The opposition coalition NASA has repeatedly called for a reintroduction of the Bomas draft, the result of the Constitution of Kenya Review Commission, whose sittings comprise 629 delegates from different walks of life. According to the draft, a president would be elected through a national vote alongside a deputy president. The president, becoming the head of state, while the executive power of government would be exercised by the prime minister, assisted by two deputies. The powers of such a president would be limited to being the commander-in-chief of the defense forces, chairing the National Security Council, as well as formally appointing and dismissing the cabinet that would be headed by the prime minister. Even then, cabinet appointees would be picked by the prime minister, the leader of the largest party or coalition in parliament. The prime minister had been designed to chair cabinet meetings and would be accountable to parliament on all activities of the executive.
We thought it would be more open, more transparent. Have you ever seen anybody question Jomo, Moi, Uhuru, Kibaki when they have been president? Ask them that they do what they want to, they make speeches.
But that proposal by Gai's commission flopped when it was revised by a parliamentary select committee which curtailed the executive powers of the prime minister, making the holder of the office an appointee of the president and merely the leader of government business in parliament. The changes were reflected in the famous Wako draft that was eventually offered at the 2005 constitutional referendum that President Mwai Kibaki's side lost to Raila Odinga's Orange Democratic Movement. And now the country could be heading back to square one.
The constitution must all the time to be reviewed. Even Ruto himself, in this constitution, he said there was about 20% that needed a review.
Hawa watu unasikia wanazurura huko wanasema ati wanataka kubadilisha katiba tutengeneze ati prime minister mwenye atachaguliwa bunge na wabunge wachache kwa fulani ati ndiye atakuwa anaendesha mambo ya Kenya, ati nyinyi wananchi mamilioni hamuna uwezo ya kuchagua nani ataongoza Kenya hii.
Already, Tiati MP William Kamket has tabled in Parliament a constitutional amendment bill that proposes to reduce the president to a ceremonial head of state with a term limit of 1 7-year term. The executive power, according to the bill, is to be exercised by a prime minister as proposed in the Bomas draft. But Professor Gai feels politicians are simply being opportunistic, their interests at play.
I think people are now quite suspicious of the motives of the politicians. Now, Uhuru may want to move away from presidential because he has had his 2 terms, and in the normal way he will be out. But if it became presidential, parliamentary, well, he comes in new clothes as prime minister. It opened the doors to Odinga because he does have very large support in the country, and if he and Uhuru get together, as it seems they are beginning to, then of course they will control it, whichever way they have. But now poor Ruto, poor little Ruto, now will be in trouble. Suddenly the constitution becomes important to him.
With President Uhuru Kenyatta and opposition chief Raila Odinga enjoying a truce, political dialogue is likely to focus on a common ground in review of governance structure. Whichever way it goes, it will have both beneficiaries and casualties politically. Sam Gituku for The Big Question.